Hello fellow YouTubers and viewers. Today we will discuss about why your landing page is not converting. Or in fact why your ad is not converting or why your email is not getting enough click-through rates. But for this specific example, I'll just cover through the landing page option, because if I'll cover all the 3 or 4 channels, it will just take an hour video, right? But over here, if you've watched right till the end, I'll give you 3 tips on how you can increase your landing page conversions pretty quickly. If you spend more time in doing your homework before applying those 3 steps, right? The steps are quick, but the homework that you have to do before that's where the pain is, right? So why your landing page isn't converting? Before I dwell into that, you got to understand this thing, right? You cannot optimize your way out of a weak promise. If your promise is weak at the very beginning, you cannot sell anything. Right. What I mean by that is your promise needs to actually change someone's life. It needs to be that impactful. And most of the time, now you'll say, yeah, Raul, but I sell, I sell security cameras. And I don't know how that will change someone's life. It will. In absence of a security camera, someone will barge into your house and maybe harm your kid or your loved ones. That will have an impact on your life. So you need to make sure that the promise of that video camera preventing that unfortunate event happening is that what you have to write. And even if you write that on a poor landing page, that will still communicate. So you can't optimize your way out of a weak promise. Okay. Now, the most common mistakes where the most marketers get stuck, and this is really good for entrepreneurs as well. If they are running a one-man ship, this is where it will be helpful. Now, it's things like obsessing over the button color. Should I go for a red color because red creates more urgency, blue creates more cooling effect, etc., etc. Doesn't matter, right? Then testing font sizes, headlines, shortening or lengthening the font, then ignoring the real promise, the problem, which is the actual promise, which is the actual message. The way I define the promise is how you communicate your product offering. Promise is how you communicate your product offering. Now, if the promise is weak, no one will buy from you. You have to make that promise. Now, what makes a great promise? These are the 3 key elements that makes a promise great. It's clarity, it's urgency, and it's believability. You need to be very clear in your message. And how you become very clear in your message is you sell one thing or promote one thing at one time. Your product may be able to do 100 different things, but in one message, you have to only communicate one thing. And you take out all those things that you can't do. Please, please, please do not market anything that you can't complete or sell. All right? Because that's not an ethical practice at the very first beginning, and you won't sound confident when you're selling it. So pick one topic, pick one product feature or benefit for one particular channel, and that will increase the clarity in your message. How clearly you articulate that will have an impact in someone's life, right? Urgency. Now, urgency is important because you want to convey this message with absolute clarity that if this is not action today or tomorrow, this will have maybe a negative impact, right? Now, urgency is different than, limited time only. So, limited time only is where you have, not limited time only, limited stock, right? So limited stock is basically a function of the quantity, and urgency is a function of time, right? So you have to play on time. So an example of that would be, we will, say for example, we are running a webinar on how you buy your first property, how you purchase your first property. So the webinar is about buying your first property, right? It's not investment. It's not how you pick up the best mortgage deals. It's about how you buy your first property. It has to be that clear. Now, with urgency, you can say, we are running this webinar in the next 7 days on how you buy your first property. And after those 7 days, that webinar won't be available. I mean, it can be better, but that's the kind of thinking you have to do before you start tweaking your buttons for landing page. And then believability. Now, you're not sending spaceship to Mars. in the 7 days. So make sure your offer, your promise is believable. That person can think like, yes, they can do that. Because if it's not believable, people won't click, right? There's too much charlatan, too much scams happening online. The belief on marketers is just decreasing day by day. So you have to make sure that your offer, your promise is believable. So your promise needs to have absolute clarity, number one. It needs to have urgency, number two. And it needs to have believability, number three. Okay, these three things you need to have, must have. Now, here's an example. Now, weak versus strong we'll play. Now, here's a weak promise. Learn everything you need to know about buying your first home. Well, I don't call it weak, but it won't create that much of an impact because there is no impact statement. There is no problem that I'm addressing here. There is just one solution that I'm offering, which is you will know about buying your first home, right? Now, here's how I will convert it into a strong promise. Buying your first home shouldn't feel like gambling, because often it does. You don't know what you're doing and you're spending north of $700,000, $800,000, right? So buying your first home shouldn't feel like gambling. Learn 3 mistakes that cost buyers thousands and how to avoid them, right? So the impact, the consequence that we have to sell, that is important. So that's how you write a strong promise. Now, here's a simple test to understand whether your promise is strong or it's weak. And I'll show you how, sorry, I'm just gonna, okay. So write your promise in 1 sentence. Write your promise in 1 sentence. Make sure it is the best version of your promise, which will have an impact, which has clarity, which has time foundation, and then it is also believable, right? Write that in 1 sentence. Now, show it to someone cold. What I mean show it to someone cold is show it to someone who is not from your market. If it's a first home buyer, show it to someone who's not actually interested in buying a property. And then ask, would this make you take an action right now? Once you see this, would you go to the next step? Tell them what the next step is. Would you register for this webinar? Would you give in your details? Would you talk to this person? And if the answer is no, you need to fix the promise, not the page. Okay, so that's why it's so important. So what we learned over here is you need to fix the problem for your landing page conversion before you jump into playing with creative colors and buttons and formats and everything. So your foundation of your promise should have an absolute clarity. It needs to deliver the promise. It needs to be believable, needs to be time bounded, needs to show some urgency. And once that is done, everything is fixed. The hierarchy of effort where to focus first, again, is you nail your promise. That's 80% of the result. Then match the whole page message to that promise. Make sure you're not discussing 2-3 different things. You need to have that flow, and then test the layout and design. Hope you like this video. Hope it helps to convert more from your landing page, helps you do a better job at marketing. And please, 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 please subscribe our channel. Thank you and have a nice day.